Now, you'll either be aware or not aware, but there was a Jaguar XJ R8, the silk cut of 1987.
Right.
Famous car that many of the greats, including Martin Brundle, I think, drove that car as well. But Zach Brown, and he parked it, sadly, yesterday, had a problem of some sort.
Okay.
And had to...
And I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think that might be twin turbo V6, but it could be a 12-cylinder car. But I think that car, that silk cut Jaguar, was the car that won Le Mans.
Yeah, certainly did.
And I mean, you know, after dominating Le Mans in the 50s.
Actually, you know what? That particular car. That particular car was actually run by Jan Lammers. No, this particular car was run by Jan Lammers and John Watson in '97 in the World Endurance Championship. It took wins at Arama, Monza, and Fuji. So it didn't win Le Mans, that particular car. But yes, I know that the Jaguars did go well.
This is underway.
We're underway. And this is Group 4A that we're looking at, this Hurley Haywood. And we've got some great cars in this, beautiful sands too, as we look at the 77.
Well, that looks like the Mazda that you might have seen win. Is that the same car?
No, that's a slightly different one. It's the green and orange one that I saw. This is Tom Long in a 92 Mazda RX 792B. So just a little bit later. And down through, and that all pink car is Kadori at the wheel, I think.
Okay, that's, I recognize that name. That's the son of the person that I've met.
Yeah, Philip Kadori.
Okay, and I think that's the Peninsula Hotel person.
Yep.
Yes.
And that's a Richard Lloyd car that did race at Le Mans back in 1990, a 962. No, the Mazda I was talking about is just coming out of 12 now.
Okay.
As we look at the 86. We'll try a little bit of information on each of them. This was the 1990 Daytona 24-hour car that qualified on pole and finished third.
Is that a 956? I'm not seeing.
It's a 962C.
962C. Okay, right. Boy, talk about 956, 962s, the iconic Porsches that just dominated for so long.
It raced here last year in the Historics and also was at Rennsport in the reunion and finished second in that. So another great event. Porsche run here.
Were you here for that?
No, I didn't take part in it. So Long leading the way, Tom Long leading the way in the 77A ahead of Philip Kadori in second place. Alex Kirby in third. Cal Mika currently in fourth position. There's the 29. And that's the Spice GTP of Cal Mika that we just mentioned from 1987. I tell you what, we've got some very experienced drivers out there, but you'd have to be pretty fit to drive one of these, I think.
Well, I think you have to have some experience to be in one of these. I mean, this is real serious stuff, and if you get it wrong, you're going to pay a big price.
Yeah. Now, that's the high screen Mazda that I was talking about. That's why I remember it so well, is that it was such an iconic sound, or different sound, if you will. Everybody else had that low grumble, and the Mazda, the rotary, just like a sewing machine, but really at high pitch. And at Le Mans, down the Mulsanne, nothing like it. Nothing like it. Duncan McKellar in the 15A, currently in fifth position. And that car of Duncan's a 1989 Porsche 962C.
So, Jonathan, I see that in the program, there's a Group 44 XJR5.
Yes.
Is that out there?
Do you know what? It's a good question. Tell me what number and I'll tell you.
Number 44. So
it is not currently. We've got a smaller group going. Here's that Mazda I was talking about. Sounds great, doesn't it?
Yes.
And it looks great, too.
Yes.
Very distinctive. A little bit of history on that. That's the 1989 767B. And in 1988, they began with 3 brand new 767s. And after moderate success, the 3 cars were replaced by the 1989. So while it made a lot of noise, maybe it wasn't the most successful of cars, but I loved it. Well, but it was competitive. It was competitive right out of the box.
I mean, this 10-year stretch, 1981 to 1991, IMSA, GTP, GTO, FIA, Group C, Trans Am. That's, you've got to have a big mix in here.
It's a great mix. And so, there's so many different iterations. Jonathan Bormarato driving that car, incidentally, currently in 6th. And like I said earlier, it won at Fuji, 1,000 kilometers in 1988. And it also won the GTP class.
Before the historic racing scene really existed, these would have been obsolete race cars.
Yeah, they'd be in a museum,
They'd be in a museum, or they, they could have been scrapped.
Yeah,
and salvaged.
Even worse,
right. But here they have a life, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, what they were designed to do.
There you go. How about that for a bit of front wing action? I like it.
Yeah.
That's the Jaguar XJR16.
Right.
Malcolm Ross in 1991. Just trying desperately to get past the Lola Corvette from 85. Number 4, driven by Scooter Gable. And he's got an inside move. All right, here we go. Drag race. Well, they were side by side coming out of 11, and they'll go over the crest, and under the bridge, and down to Andretti.
Okay, here
Now's
the Jaguar
chance.
now is going to outbrake.
Yep.
but look at that inside line. That's going to be
Lovely.
hard to hold, but he's holding it.
He's doing it well. Clearly that odd-shaped wing at the front with the Castrol logo on, doing the business. Not often you see a sort of inverted wing like that.
Yeah, it's not, but that front end held tight.
Yep, did very well. How is the surface? How is the track? How's the new? How do you like it?
I like it a lot. I mean, it's really great as far as I'm concerned. I have pretty good suspension in my car. I can kind of run down the rumble strip on the left side between 3 and 4, and make the track a little bigger than it was originally intended.
Well, if I see Jensen, I'll send him over for some tips.
Yeah. It was great. When I was on the starting grid, they had my 120, then they had Jensen, and then McAllister in the D-type. So I asked someone to get a photograph of the 3 of them, because that way you could see the evolution of those race cars,
Well, what a great bunch of folk, though. That's really fantastic. Long, Kadori, and Kirby, the top 3 in 4A. You're listening to James Aldler, who has been competing here this weekend, as he often does, and always does, or does try to, if the car is working. His XK120 has been coming here many a year, and in many ways, James epitomizes the kind of drivers that we like to attract, and that's why I love having him in the booth. I can talk to you all day, but I want to hear from the people who actually do this and have a passion to do it each and every year. And James has certainly been one of them. We met when I first did my historic entry here a few years ago, and it was great to have you on board, and always good to have a yarn and see who your mates are. Is Lars here this weekend?
Yes, Lars, he did very, very well in the black XK120. Was the fastest of the 3 120s. But of course, it's not just me that is enthusiastic about being here every year, but certainly every participant. If they're anything like me, they work hard, try to make money so they can do this.
Yeah.
And as we've said before, this kind of historic racing is, generally speaking, the most fun you can have with your clothes on.
And how many events do you do a year?
Well, about 5 to 8. That's about my max, if everything goes well.
Yeah, that's a big commitment.
That's a lot. And driving to and from, but the drive to and from is always kind of a nice adventure. And people really like to see a car on the road that they normally would not see at all.
No, exactly.
You know?
We saw Tom Mueller there in the 87 Porsche 962, rolling on down. Here's the 77, who's continuing to have a good battle here. It's the Mazda RX 792P. I was just talking about the other 792. And he's got a nice little battle going on as well. Sadly, the Toyota, the number 99 from 1991, the AAR Toyota Eagle, a Mark III GTP that Fangio II, I think, drove back in the day. Charles Neerberg was due to drive that, but he had an issue, a mechanical.
I see. Yeah. Well, this is not easy.
No.
Particularly these cars that are very, very technical.
And it's not like you bring a staff with you, is it?
Well, I mean, I certainly don't. Now, a lot of these cars certainly have support personnel, but hey, things go wrong, and they're not making, they're not making brand new parts. At least the factories aren't. And unless there is a very big market like there is for an XK120, so there are aftermarket companies that do make good quality parts. But for a GTP car, you're going to be fabricating stuff yourself. You better have a 3D printer and deep pockets.
Had it ever had any breakdowns on the way or on the way back?
Well, I certainly have, but I have not. It didn't have any breakdowns on the way here this time.
Good.
I was not able to leave Reno though until Wednesday morning at about 4:30 a.m. And I made it to Monterey at about 10:30 a.m.
Oh, perfect. We're watching Philip Kadori in second place in the number 69, that Porsche 962 from 1990.
Wow, that's a beautiful car, and Philip has really become as far as I can tell, a very, mature driver. And I don't think he's been driving for that long. But I've seen his name come up more often in historic racing, and he seems to be doing a great job.
Yeah.
Now, can he catch Long?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Let's have a look. Yeah, it's only a couple of seconds. Tom Long leading the way at the moment. And they're swapping fastest laps out there. They're down in the 122s. And the leaders all pretty much in the same kind of time zone, as it were, when it comes to lap time. They've got 8 laps on the board. We should be seeing some white flags out fairly soon, I think.
Jonathan, have you ever had an opportunity to be a passenger in a car like this?
Yes, I have.
Really?
With Brian Redman.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine?
No. Now in a 962?
No, it was a 917, but...
a 917?
A 917, yeah.
Oh. Man.
Well, it was the famous one, too. It was the one that was in the film Le Mans that Steve McQueen... In fact, Steve McQueen owned it for a while.
Oh, wow. And that was the Gulf Mirage colors?
Yep.
Oh, boy, that's...
And of all places, Brian had taken it back to Yorkshire, to Gargrave, where he lived and rode horses and did hunting and when his time was off. But he kept it in the garage. He bought it off Steve McQueen, and they kept it in a museum for a while. But he had it in the garage, and one morning he decided he was going to clear the gearbox, was his excuse.
Okay.
So he got up early one morning while everybody else, while the good people were going to church, Brian was going to his.
Okay, right.
Which is dragging his 917 and 917 up to the top of a hill in Yorkshire and then letting it freewheel until he could get it into gear and see if he could undo the gearbox, he said.
Huh.
Yeah.
What's the mission there?
The mission was just to have some fun, I think.
Okay. Okay.
But he said it was getting stuck in gear, so he thought if he could take it up to the top of the hill.
Oh, I see.
And let it freewheel down, he could be able to bump start it effectively and get it going. Which he did.
And then perhaps free up the gearbox.
That's the idea.
And did that work?
I don't think anybody cared. Because by the time he lit it up, the whole village had woken up and the church had emptied, and it was very funny. Me and his son James sat there on a farm fence watching him go by. It was a wonderful moment, but I did get to drive around in him.
Well, that's an incredible car. I mean, the fact that Steve McQueen owned it,
I know.
I jokingly tell people that I have a pair of Steve McQueen underwear that I have for sale. I'm actually wearing that.
Okay.
Yeah, so would you like to buy that?
No, I've got my own.
It
Yeah.
was Steve McQueen's.
Yes, absolutely.
McQueen, of course, has also a connection with Jaguar.
Yes.
He bought an XKSS, which was basically a street legal D-type that the factory made with the 16 tubs that they had left over when the rules were changed for endurance racing to a maximum of 3 liters. So they decided, well, we'll put a windscreen on it and a passenger door and a little bit better exhaust and a luggage rack on the back, and we'll sell it as a street car. And he bought one used when he was having success with the program Wanted Dead or Alive.
Right.
And there was only 16 XKSSs, so it was very, very rare. And he got tired of it, and he sold it to Bill Hara of Hara's Automobile Collection.
Wow.
For $5,000. And a few years later, he wanted to buy that car back, and Bill sold it back to him for $85,000. Now that car is in the Peterson Museum.
Yeah.
And about 10 years ago, it was very conservatively estimated value of $35 million.
Wow, incredible. Well, the Mazda we were watching did take part in Le Mans in '89 and did take a top 10 finish of 9th. So, yeah, it didn't have the success perhaps that they were hoping for, but the next iteration, the 787, had more success.
Now, this is the final lap, so
Yep.
if Kadori is going to, looks like that lead is stretched out a little bit, though. So he might not be able to, looks like there's no way. Long is kind of alone. It's, it's lonely at the top.
That's what they say. So we've had a good display of great Mazda noise and sound as the 77 and the 12 have been putting them through their paces.
What great fun for these guys to be able to live out their fantasies.
Yeah, Tom Long taking it home. And it's been a great weekend. But it's going to be the Mazda RX 792P from 1992 coming down the hill out of Rainey, down towards the final corner here for the final time. And this to celebrate Hurley Haywood, one of the greats of American racing and certainly one of the greatest in endurance racing. And the checkered flag is out. Cal Mika will finish 4th, just off the podium behind Kirby on the 86. Philip Kadori in the all-pink number 69 coming across in 2nd place now.
Looks like they were just coming up on some back mark.
In fact, Kirby just got him.
Oh, yeah.
Kirby just got him at the line. Now, look at that. Nicely done. So Kadori takes a 3rd place. Let's head down to Kev Harris down in the paddock.